What is up, IDP Army? It's your man. You already know, Jordan Rains at 50 Shades of Drunk. If you are on Twitter, give me a follow. And this is the IDP Army podcast, where we are talking mostly IDP, all fantasy football. Let's get it, baby.
Check the mic and make sure it sound right, boys.
Welcome in, IDP Army. As I said, my name is Jordan Rains. I am happy to be here with you all. Today, we're going to be talking through or going over my final installment, maybe, wink, wink, of the sleeper series I've been doing 7 IDP sleepers every week for the past 2 weeks. I'm going to drop one more. Fantasy football season is like literally here. So get your sleepers, check your waiver wires. This is stuff you're going to want. So we appreciate you being here with us. Please subscribe to the channel. Give us a thumbs up. Leave us a comment on anybody that you missed in the sleeper series. Go back and check out the other videos in the sleeper series that have been going on. Subscribe to the podcast. Do all that good stuff. Check out the Patreon if you guys have any questions. That's a good place to get a hold of us, as well as the comment section here and on Twitter. But if you get on the Patreon, you can get in our Discord channel. And when you get our server, when you get our Discord server, there's tons of guys in there talking IDP. Not exclusively, like the brand says, mostly IDP, all fantasy football though. So anything goes. So we're talking anything and everything. College, NFL, offense, defense, special teams, as my man Sean McVay likes to say. So go ahead and hop in there on that. So I think there's any other homework or any other backup stuff we need to get done before we hop into the show. Not really. I hope you all been doing good in your drafts. First and foremost, I had a couple of drafts this last week, still in some drafts. This is a fun time of year. There's nothing but hope and optimism as long as you didn't draft anybody that got hurt recently. So everybody seems looking good, but, we're about to get to the grind. We're about to get to the 17 weeks that really matter in fantasy football season, when you win and when you can lose each week, depending on who you start. So also another reason to subscribe to the channel is every Sunday morning, we're going to do a lineup live stream, help you decide your starts and sits, figure out, sift through the injury news, last second COVID stuff, blah, blah, blah. So we'll be here every Sunday for you guys at 11 Eastern, guys and gals, 11 Eastern, doing that. So excited to do that with you for the third year running. And also, I just want to give a quick shout out to my Bills Mafia. You guys will see some of our ads running on the Cover One, brands, shows, and on their podcasts over the next couple of weeks. We're working with them and love those guys over there. So if you're part of the IDP Army and you're not part of the Bills Mafia, one, shame on you. Two, you need to join into the Cover One crowd. Go follow them and subscribe to their YouTube channel as well. All right. That's all the housekeeping. You've stuck around this long. I appreciate you. Let's get you to what you came here for, and that is IDP sleepers. So our number one guy for today's show is going to be Josh Sweat. Why do I like Josh Sweat? Josh Sweat is a defensive lineman for the Philadelphia Eagles. I'm not a huge Philadelphia Eagles fan, as many of you know, but this is his third season in the league this last year, and he did really well on a team that needs some pass rush help. 38 combined tackles, 6 sacks. He played 15 games. He did not play the final week of the season. 11 quarterback hits, 14 total impact plays, which is a great number for pretty much anybody. But when you look for the context of Josh Sweat, he only played a little over 400 snaps. So to get almost 40 tackles, 6 sacks, 14 impact plays, he was making a big difference on the field. So just to kind of give you something to compare it to, apples to apples, apples to oranges, whatever. Josh Sweat did those numbers again, 38 and then 6 sacks, on just 14 or on just 400 snaps. Aaron Donald, again, different player, different situation, blah, blah, blah. But he still played all 16 games, started all 16 games, played a little over 800 snaps. Aaron Donald only had 45 tackles. So Josh Sweat played basically half as much time as him, only came up with, almost a very similar tackle floor. Aaron Donald actually played a whole other game too. So if you would have thrown that other game in there on the season, you can see where the floor is kind of established for Josh Sweat. Now, everything coming out of Eagles camp is saying that he's looking good. He's basically going to be there. He's they think he's going to be the one to take the step forward as their primary pass rusher. Played a career high in snaps, as I said. There's nothing not to love about Josh Sweat. You can have him so cheap right now. He's probably on some of your waiver wires. Eagles fans, if you guys are out here still suffering through me talking shit so much, I appreciate it. But I'm a big fan of Josh Sweat. So that's one of the beauties of fantasy football. I'm not an Eagles fan. I don't really like the Eagles. But guess what? There are guys on the Eagles that I want on my teams and that I can root for on Sundays, Sunday nights, Monday, whenever they play. So that's one of the joys of fantasy football. And, giving you players too. There's not a lot on offense on this team either. Now, don't come screaming at me in the comments, but for IDP purposes, this is actually a very solid team with some good guys that you're going to start every week. So let's go ahead and slide on down to my next sleeper. This is going to be another defensive line player, still pretty young in the league, and that is going to be Rashan Gary for the Green Bay Packers. This is his second year in the NFL. If you look at Rashan Gary, he drafted 12th overall in 2019 in a class that saw some of the best pass rushers. Some of the guys are going to be premier players in the league for a long time. Brian Burns, Montez Sweat, two of those. Nick Bosa also. He was drafted within just a couple of picks of Nick Bosa. So Rashan Gary was somebody that has a lot of talent coming in. People saw a lot of as a prospect that he had a lot of upside. But the problem was that same year they brought in Preston Smith and Zadarius Smith. So even though he was a rookie, they brought him in to help. I see some comments over here. I'll get to those in a minute, y'all. But even as a rookie and he came in, they didn't need him to go out there and perform. So they didn't play him as much. This last year, he came out, had 34 tackles, 5 sacks, 7 impact plays, played 426 snaps. Not incredible earth-shattering numbers, but those are definitely serviceable and usable numbers. And if you think he can take a step forward, as many edge rushers do as they acclimate to playing against bigger offensive linemen in the league, you can begin to see a path where Rashan Gary is going to produce. Only started 4 games this last year, week 3, week 12, and week 15. But I don't think that that's a reason that we should. I think there's a lot of upside here again with him. I think this could be a big breakout year for him. And as a sleeper play, he has dual tag designations if you are playing on sleeper, which is an added kind of perk or a bonus. So I really like Rashan Gary coming into this next year as a sleeper defensive line player. If you do take a 0 DL strategy, he's one of those players you can grab basically at the very last pick of your IDP draft. I'm almost guarantee you he'll be around, especially if it's redraft. And he could slot in there every week and he could have some boom weeks that really help you. And he could see an increased role that makes him be somebody that's not only someone that you just got, are playing because you have to, but playing because you want to. So both these players, Josh Sweat on the edge and Rashan Gary, I could see morphing into that kind of player this season. So don't sleep on them. I'm going to run a quick thing here real quick and I'll be right back, y'all. What's good, IDP Army? It's Jordan Rains, and quickly I want to tell you guys today about the big project I've been working on, the Ultimate IDP Index. The Ultimate IDP Index is the #1 resource for IDP fantasy football players, rookies or veteran for 2021. Inside, you're going to find contract information, tiered IDP rankings, detailed player production profiles going back to 2017, suggested trade values, and a whole lot more, including unique write-ups, unique videos that will only be available within the Ultimate IDP Index. But to me, probably the most valuable thing is the fact that the trade value estimation tool is going to be updated weekly, so you'll always be aware of what a player is worth in your Dynasty League at any given moment. So what are you waiting for? Sign up for the IDP Army Patreon today. Patreon.com/the IDP Army. Join the Black Ops tier and join the IDP Army today. Go sign up for the Patreon. If you already are, sign up for the Patreon. Shout out to you guys. I just was looking at some of the Patreon stuff. I don't get on the actual platform very often, but we're one of the bigger fantasy football patronages that exists. So I'm pretty proud of that. So that's not me though. That's you. So I appreciate you all, feeling, comfortable and confident enough in the products and the stuff that I'm putting out there to subscribe to the channel, to join the Patreon, to give back to the community. We want this thing to grow. The groundswell of IDP is happening. Nobody's going to stop it. It is inevitable, as my man Thanos says. So let's go ahead and hop back into the sleepers, which is really why you're here. All right, my man Rashan Gary, your time to shine is over. Next on the list, we have a linebacker, which is, again, this is what a lot of people came here for. You want to hear some linebacker sleepers. A guy I'm really, really keen on this year is Bobby Okereke. Let's see if I can get him to pop up here. There's a couple of reasons for this, not least among them being that Anthony Walker, who was playing second fiddle to Darius Leonard, is now the starting linebacker for the Cleveland Browns. So Bobby Okereke by default now is in a situation where he's probably / most likely going to be playing a ton more snaps than we've seen him play before. And his production profile, looking here in the Ultimate IDP Index, isn't bad. 13 impact plays, not a huge number, but when you caveat that with the fact that he only started 8 games, you can get behind that. 4 tackles for loss, that's behind the line of scrimmage. Love that. 6 pass deflections, that means he's getting targeted, but he can also cover. We love that. 72 combined tackles, not a monster number, but again, the guy only started 8 games. All these numbers will go up based on pure volume alone this year. He can be had dirt cheap in your leagues. And we've seen this position that he's in. Anthony Walker wasn't necessarily a linebacker one, but he's had some extremely productive seasons there. Again, playing second fiddle to Darius Leonard, who we know is going to eat. This defensive line did spend some draft capital in the draft getting some young pass rushers. I know one of them, is not going to play the first couple of weeks of the season or is on IR, but they're making this defense more disruptive on the defensive line. They started doing that when they added DeForest Buckner. They saw something that they liked with Pt.3, who's still hanging out there. They have Ben Banagoo, who has been getting good reports at camp. These are all guys you can also add to your sleeper list. Maybe I'll do another video. I said at the beginning of this video, this is the last sleeper video. Maybe I lied to you. Maybe I'm going to do another one. No one's going to stop me. So anyway, back to Bobby Okereke. He's going to get the play time by default. They say he's been looking good in camp, and he's shown enough to be somebody that's going to be a viable starter, especially if you're starting 7, 8 IDP players. Bobby Okereke should not be sitting on your waiver wires at the very least. So if he is, go get him. So there's another sleeper for you. I got another linebacker sleeper here, I believe. Who do we got popping up next on my list? Oh, Troy Reeder. This is a fun one, okay? So there's going to be some people out there. Okay, calm down. Micah Kiser got cut yesterday. All right. Now, a lot of people last year were huge Micah Kiser fans when he came out week 1 and had like 10 tackles and a pass deflection or something. And they all told us so. Micah Kiser is going to be the guy. Micah Kiser was always kind of just like a meh linebacker. I mean, he just meh. He had a lot of tackles. Yeah, but he wasn't really doing anything in that role. And we know that role can be conductive to high-level linebacker production, a la Corey Littleton and a la Troy Reeder. Now, what do you need to know about Troy Reeder? Just know this. The guy played 7 games last year, came up with 10 impact plays, which is, you think, yeah, that's not a great number. 3 of them were sacks, 5 tackles for loss. Those are massive numbers. And that was way more than Micah Kiser was getting done. Micah Kiser was getting plenty of opportunities. He just was not actually making the on-field impact that you wanted. That's why he got cut. I mean, no ifs, ands, or buts about it. Now, and there are some people out there that think Kenny Young is going to be the primary starter you want for the Rams, and he may be, but I don't buy that. Kenny Young has been here, there, and everywhere. Been to Baltimore, been with the Rams for a while, and he just cannot get playing time. He's proven good enough to stay on teams, yeah, and now he is going to start for the Rams, yeah, opposite Reeder apparently, but I feel like he's been in the league so long where I think he's going to lose that job potentially lose that job to the rookie, Ernest, I believe. Ernest, I believe is his name. You'll have to vet me on that. I'm sorry, it's eluding me right now. But Troy Reeder has shown the ability to make plays, and I think that's why he earned a starting linebacker spot. He was good enough again to send Micah Kiser packing, and I think. And right now, I'm not looking at Fantasy Pros rankings, but I know that he's not even in the top 35 at linebackers. So you're going to be able to get him an arbitrage linebacker 1, and if you really think he has true upside that Corey Littleton does, if you really want to buy into that whole narrative, I mean, he could be a top 5 linebacker, a top 6 linebacker. And I just don't think Kenny Young, no matter what we do to Kenny Young, no matter what we say about Kenny Young, I don't think he possesses that. So that's that's where I'm planting my flag. I reached out to a friend of the show, who does the Downtown Rams podcast and the show on YouTube, Jake Ellenbogen, and he kind of agreed with me. I said, of the 2 linebackers on this team, that made the cut, the primary guys, Reeder and Young, assuming that's who it's going to be, who would you rather have for IDP? and he kind of leaned towards Reader, and that kind of just solidified my thought process there. So I'm going to go ahead and say that Troy Reader is definitely a sleeper, especially if other people are trying to gas up and say that Kenny Young is the guy. Let them take him. You take Reader. We'll see how it goes. So moving right along down this list, I think we're getting to a really good team next. I believe. Oh, yeah, there it is. The Chiefies. You already know. It's time to show some Chiefs love. L'Jarius Sneed, cornerback, plays like a safety. I mean, the dude hits hard. He flies around the field. Looks like Honey Badger out there for real. And that's kind of why. Anyway, sorry. 7 pass deflections, 3 interceptions, 2 tackles for loss, 2 sacks on 410 snaps as a slot corner. Okay. This guy was drafted in the 4th round, and he was playing like an all-pro safety last year, essentially. I mean, he was all over the place. And you saw it even in the preseason. He was making plays, like big plays defensively. He could end up being one of the new premier corners in the league. He's very physical. He's on a good team that's going to be force other teams to throw, so he's going to get a lot of action. 41 combined tackles. I mean, that's like 10 tackles for every 100 snaps. That's good. I mean, everything checks out with L'Jarius Sneed. So if you're looking for a cornerback that people are like, go stream corner, don't stream corner. Draft L'Jarius Sneed. You're not going to have to worry about streaming corner because you got one of the best corners in the league for IDP and for real football, probably. The PFF heads out there will have to vet me on that. I'll have to go check and see if he's actually good or not. I think he's pretty good. So moving on past L'Jarius Sneed, who else I got here? I think I have a really good one next. This is Nasir Adderley. All right, was a big fan of Nasir Adderley 2 years ago, when he was drafted to the Chargers. Okay, this was coming on to the year. This is the first year post Derwin James, when he was blew up, the best safety in the league. Blah blah blah. So whenever Derwin went down, really thought Adderley was going to get a lot more work, be a lot more productive, more consistent than he was. He just really wasn't. I don't know what the deal was with the coaching staff there. I know there was like turmoil just in general with the Chargers the last couple of years, but those guys all kind of are gone now. And I don't even think it's going to have to be one of those things where Adderley forces people's hands anymore. He played last season, 14 games, started 14 games, ended up with 69 combined tackles. No tackles for loss. Not a huge fan of that. Only 3 pass deflections. But the reason I bring him up as a sleeper, because his stats are really kind of based on what he did last year. If he, depending on how they use him this year, there's definitely room to improve. But the sneaky thing about him is the kick returns. Now, if you played a kick return yard league or a punt return yard league, he returned 11 kicks last year for 318 yards. That's not negligible. Okay, that can compensate for some of his shortcomings, maybe in the behind the line of scrimmage plays. So there's sneaky upside with him. And that's why I really wanted to make sure to get Adderley in this video, because he really is kind of, in my mind, a true definition of a sleeper, because the way that he's going to score for you isn't necessarily the way that people are going to be looking for him to score for you. Now, this is going to be contingent upon the league you play in. If your league doesn't score return yards, then that's a completely moot point. But if you play in a league that's like that, and many people do, that's something that you definitely want to have on hand. All right, our final player here. I had to sneak in another Chief, y'all. I just had to. I'm bringing out my man, Dirty Dan Sorensen. All right, you might know him as the hero of the postseason 2 years ago, whenever our defense wasn't great. It did enough to get us where we needed to go, and Daniel Sorensen was a big part of that in the postseason. Last year, came out of nowhere, had a career high in tackles at 30 years old, 91. 2 tackles for loss, 5 pass deflections, 3 interceptions, which tied a career high. It was an all-around, just a spectacular year for Daniel Sorensen. Now, the player Daniel Sorensen is not, no shade at my guy. I love him. He's not one of the best players in the league. He's not one of the best safeties in the league. But for IDP purposes, he's in a good spot. Okay, and what I mean by that, what we kind of saw last year was, basically Tyrann Mathieu got moved to more of a corner position last year, low key. And what did that mean? That means Daniel Sorensen was basically the true strong safety for this team last year, with Thornhill on the back. And then, Honey Badger played a little here and there, but he was playing more corner than I think people realized, which is why he had more interceptions last year than he's ever had, why his tackles were down really low, and they were like obscenely low for someone you would call a safety. who started as much as he did. All that to say is it looks like they're going to run back that same exact defense based on kind of what I saw in the preseason. So Daniel Sorensen could be on track for another big year. I mean, this is a guy who, through the first 12 weeks of the season, was a top 8 safety. I know by the end of the season, it dwindled down just a little bit. But Daniel Sorensen, he's a player that you can get, like I said, dirt cheap. Nobody's really thinking about him. He's not somebody you think of as a premier defender in the NFL. But for IDP purposes, he's productive. He's proven that he can be productive, and I think he's a good sleeper pick for you this year. And you know what? If he loses his job to Honey Badger again, if things get shaken up, you just drop him because he's not gonna. The cost to acquire him in your league as a draft, you're probably gonna be able to get him on waivers, just straight up and down. So that is my sleeper list of the last 7 sleepers. Now I've got 21 sleepers. Go check out the other sleeper videos if you have not, because they are probably even better than this one. And this one's amazing. So got a few questions over here in the chat. I'm going to try to answer these, but I'm also going to try to keep this video kind of short just for the YouTube algorithms purposes. So is Yahoo or Sleeper a better app for IDP? My guy, Sleeper, 100 times out of 100. There it is. This is the name of that player I couldn't think of. Ernest Jones in the 3rd. Thank you. Appreciate that, David Anderson. Matt. Yo. What up, Matt? What's up, man? Can you maybe help me out a bit? Yeah, if you can articulate what that means just a tiny bit more, and I'm still here, I would love to do that. Anybody else in the stream have any questions? I will answer them for you here quickly. In the meantime, go subscribe to the channel. Give us a thumbs up. Go sign up for the Patreon. Season's coming around. We're going to be doing a Patreon-only live stream. That'll be like a couple of Saturdays a month. So that'll be, guaranteed interaction with me. You guys can get in the Discord, obviously, which is a great spot. There's a lot of good IDP minds in there. You get the Ultimate IDP Index, which has got so many features I can't even speak them anymore. It's just so many stuff that's not even front end that people can see that I've been working on that's coming soon. So just if you want to win your IDP league, get the Ultimate IDP Index, or you're going to lose somebody that's got it. So that's kind of my pitch. Oh man, this looks tough. All right, Vampire League question. So I'm in a Vampire League. I had to make a team from waivers. I just want to have the best QB to give me a chance. LOL. Ryan Fitz, Big Ben, Winston, or Burrow, or a few. I would go Winston. I'll go Winston, my guy. You saw what he had. Like, he threw the ball like 4 or 5 times the other night, had like 150 yards and 2 touchdowns. That's Jameis Winston in a T. Okay, people won't talk about that. They'll talk about, he throws so many interceptions. Okay, guess what? An interception's minus what? 1, 2, 3 points. A 40-yard touchdown is worth a lot more than that, and he can do that at a clip most other guys can't. Miss the other sleepers. Okay, Rashan Jenkins. Here's a quick question about Rashan Jenkins. He actually was going to go into this sleeper video, and he just didn't. So, yes, I'm in on Rashan Jenkins, and like I said earlier in the video, I'm thinking about doing another one because the season's still, like a week and a half away. The 3 that I've done are the ones I really want to do, but I've still got a handful of other sleepers I might throw out there for you also. If the outcry from the people is to do that, who am I to say no? That's kind of where I'm at right now. So, all right, y'all. In order to keep this brief, again, to help the YouTube algorithm, the all-powerful God that is, I'm going to get out of here. So, appreciate you, IDP Army. There will be more videos coming to the channel soon. You already know all of that stuff. So, yeah, appreciate you being on this journey with me, and I'll see you soon.
Let the rain hit the sand. Build a house on a rock, got a plan. Gotta get stocks, keep them bands. Hear the clock tick, blades on the fan. Used to be mundane on a Monday. Now you have fun day on a Sunday. Cause you switching it up and you living it up. You ain't getting enough.